Hey, Mike, what do Kelly Slater and PT have in common?
I don't know. They're both world champs?
Nope, they both own Endless Summer box set.
Oh my God, rad. You guys, you can get it too. The link's in the show notes. Hey, this is Mike with the Quivercast, brought to you by quiverbuilder.com, where you buy, sell, surf. Good evening, everyone. We're in Sacramento at the Icons of Surf shop here on El Camino with Ben.
Hello.
Hello. And Ben, what's your full name if you want to?
Full name is Benjamin Paul Barnick.
Yeah, he's giving us thumbs up to interview him, where I'm super stoked right now.
I'm stoked.
Cool. So, Ben, where'd you grow up surfing?
Grew up Central Coast, Atascadero, California,
Okay.
which is close to San Luis Obispo, and it's inland. So I'm valley from way back.
So, how did you get to the beach? And well, let's start back. What motivated you to want to go surf, especially there when it's chilly, real chilly?
I started out skateboarding.
Okay.
And I got lucky. My dad built us a quarter pipe when he was young. He was actually, they used to have like vert exhibitions at the Mid-State Fair, and the guy he worked for and with, they built one of the vert ramps for this thing at the Mid-State Fair. And so the H Street team at the time, H Street was kind of the shit. Can I swear?
Yeah.
All right.
We try to leave it PG.
All right.
The kids can still listen.
Sweet. So they donated my brother and I each a full setup board.
Okay.
And one of the H Street videos, Hocus Pocus, and so that kind of sent me down skateboard road. But I still wanted to surf, and I had neighbors down the street that surfed. So I ended up saving up money, and I think for $50 or something, I bought a board and a suit from one of them. And then it was just trying to flag rides from the folks. And since it's like 30 minutes down Highway 41 to the coast, runs you into Morro Bay, my parents would take us sometimes and just drop us off for the day, and then they'd go to work. Mm-hmm. So we would just have to hang out on the beach and eat some Cheez-Its or something and hang until they come pick us up. But it was brutal, man. It was hard learning to surf up there, and I couldn't do it because the board I bought was maybe a 5'8", and the lamb was Harwood, and it had a laminate glassed into it of buckwheat from the original Little Rascals.
Really?
And I just thought it was the raddest thing, but it was so hard to learn to surf on it. I was so mad I couldn't do it. I had to stick with it.
So you eventually, that board worked eventually, or did you just have to move on to another board?
No, I eventually got to the point where I could get myself out partway through the lineup because it breaks. It's just open beach break there.
And you're surfing like the what, I don't know what it's called, that strand right there by the rock?
We'd surf, Morro Strand or sometimes the pit. Not always next to the rock because it was crowded over there. And
okay.
My friend or two that were doing it with, were just learning. So we'd kind of go. Strands would usually be where we would get dropped off, and it's just beach break, so it's couple hundred yards of whitewash. So
yeah.
Finally figured out how to get part way out through the lineup and start catching reforms, like catch a whitewash.
Super gnarly up there though.
It's cold, man.
It's cold. There's a lot of water moving.
Not a good wetsuit. Like it just.
So you're just totally motivated. How old were you?
I was probably 13, 14 then.
Okay.
But even at that point, like I was still more into skateboarding.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I was in high school and I had friends who had a car that we could start going consistently, and that's when I got into it a lot more.
And how many guys were surfing out of Atascadero?
Atascadero.
Atascadero.
There's a state hospital there that's houses like the criminally insane.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, claim to fame.
There's
a reason.
Drive by it on the 101.
Yeah,
and I've actually stayed there before.
It's a weird place. Like we could talk about that, but that's a whole other thing.
Our place was rad though, right? Small town.
It's a weird town.
Okay.
There's a reason I left. But yeah.
All right, we'll move on.
What were we talking about?
Your friends?
Oh yeah, so there actually are. There's a crew of good surfers that kind of came about. A kid named Carl Holm that kind of got on the Vulcan program real early. He was one of my classmates. Nate Tyler's from there, or he's from like Atascadero, Templeton zone.
Yep.
But
it's their border, right? They border the city.
Yeah, they're just small towns right next to each other, and
Nate Tyler, that guy kills it. And
yeah.
And Carl is that guy that won is that the same Carl that ran the Vulcan surf contest?
Yes.
Oh, we know Carl.
Yeah.
That guy's cool.
So, good homie. He's graduated in '98 with me.
Oh, okay.
So he was way ahead of me. I was kind of like I was in the Kook crew.
Okay.
Because we didn't really get started until in high school is when we really started going and like got my first real good board.
Right. And he was already like ripping by then?
Yeah, he'd been surfing. His dad surfed, I think, so he got kind of brought in early.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a whole crew of like really good rippers up there. Some good stylish surfers.
Several questions I have about that.
Yeah.
So your parents stoked that he's surfing? Were they like worried about you? Would they?
No, they couldn't care. I don't know. If I'm one of 5 kids, so it's kind of like you want to do that, go for it. Whatever.
And where you at in the 5
I'm
kids?
the oldest.
Oh, you're the oldest.
Yeah.
So they have the youngins.
Yeah, so they're
of.
busy. They're like, just
Yeah,
don't die,
super busy.
don't get arrested. So yeah, like they just drop us off and like say, be here when we come pick you up. Otherwise, you live here now. So they're not negligent. They're good parents.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I mean, I take your word they're good parents. And then what about the local like Morro Bay crew? Were they frown on you guys, or were
crusty?
they stoked?
Well, because also I didn't have anyone to take me under the wing and kind of show you like,
Right.
this is the way to paddle out. This is the way to like sit in the lineup. So I learned all that by getting screamed at, and like it was good. Like I mean, you guys do club contests?
Okay.
You guys ever do any of those like up and down the coast, like the
So you
surfing coalition?
the Oceanside board, like longboard?
Yeah. So like there's a guy up there named Mouse, Dave Friesen.
Okay.
He was one of the first grown men to scream at me, and I actually thanked him for it recently.
Okay.
Because like I was paddling out at the rock, and he was flying down the line, and I was paddling out,
front of him?
and I paddled for the shoulder.
Yeah.
And he highlined and had to ditch his board because I got scared, and I actually let go of my board.
Oh.
I was probably 12 or 13, and he came up, just let me have it, and he could probably see I was like on the verge of tearing up, and he kind of paddled back over and said, "I'm sorry for yelling. You can't do that. You got to hang on to your board." And at that point, I went, "Okay, thank you."
So yeah,
That's how we learned.
They would never apologize.
So at least, but I took that.
Yes.
I understand, but
Yeah.
I don't think kids get screamed at that way anymore.
No, because their dad's on the beach that doesn't surf,
Uh-huh.
ready to pound on you if you say something to their kid wrong.
So yeah,
Interesting.
And also being from Atascadero, you already have one strike against you.
Right.
You didn't grow up on the coast, so
Yeah.
we were kind of the kook crew, and my friends were bodyboarders, so I was double kooked out. But we also kind of, because they were pretty good at it, we ended up surfing some of the kind of the ledgier stuff,
Okay.
and so kind of got into waves that had a little bit more of a like side wave
So
kind of
is that
stuff.
north of the Strand, or is
Yeah,
that
so there's
south, the other side of town?
I mean, there's some reefs as you go south from Morro Bay. You get into some area with some good reefs, and then as you go north of Morro Bay and Cayucas, there's some waves up there that bend and a couple side waves that connect. So it was really fun to kind of get to surf the more challenging stuff with
So
those
those
guys.
waves you're talking about, you don't have to give names if you don't want. Probably they're secret spots.
They're not secret, but we can just north of Cayucas and
Okay.
in the zone.
So were you guys the only ones out when you paddled out there, or were there? Like,
there were still
crew?
guys out there, but
Okay.
it's not crowded like it is now.
Oh, now it's crowded.
Yeah, it's kind of same as down here. Everyone learned to surf this year,
Really?
so it's
Did they
it's a
really
party.
learn how to surf this year, though?
They're learning to surf
They're
this year.
learning to- all age brackets.
It's the new Gidget.
It is. Well, Gidget brought it in Malibu, in what, the 50s or 60s or whatever.
Yeah, whenever that movie came out.
I just heard something interesting about her, but that's a different note. And then tell us like a surf adventure or something. Maybe it was up there with your friends, or do you have like one that you want out of the country, or maybe tell us like a surf story.
A surf story, where something
Like an
good happened.
adventure, something cool happened, whatever. It's your story.
I don't know. Give me a category. Like what kind of surf?
Like maybe with your buddies. You're 16, you want to get out of town, you guys drive to Santa Barbara. I mean,
So I mean,
or wherever you went.
one of the first times I surfed Rincon really big
Okay.
was up there in the winter. Some of the northwest swells come through, and everything closes out.
Yeah.
So the only waves you can surf are inside the harbor.
How's that way?
There's some good waves inside there.
Yeah.
That's actually that's one of my favorite little waves.
Really?
There's a left-hander inside that harbor that pinches on the jetty, and I don't know if it still works right, but that's where I learned how to tube ride. And it's not
Really?
like a deep throaty tube, but you can stall it enough to get.
And it's
Back in it.
totally in the harbor, so you're like
It's
kinda
facing
safe?
the wrong way. So yeah, it's. I mean, it still brings in some size, but it tapers it and kind of slows it down.
Okay.
So you end up with a folding wave, think kind of like Sandspit in Santa Barbara, but against the jetty.
Okay.
And it used to double. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about that wave.
Okay.
But
good. Yeah, we'll keep that secret.
so anyway, everything's too big to surf up there
Yeah.
when it get in the winter. So I think we were probably in high school, maybe 16, and just staying up at my buddy Noah Ray's house, and I think the girls we were trying to hang out with left, and it's just me and him kind of farting around watching movies. And finally, we're just like, want to go to Rincon right now? And it's
Cool.
2 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So pile
Spontaneous.
sleeping bags in the car, stop and get Slim Jims or whatever at the gas station, and
Yeah.
just bombed it and got into the parking lot at 5 something. And we couldn't see anything. There was no moon, but there were stars. And got down the trail just to check it, and you could barely make it out, but there was just white all the way across the horizon.
Really?
And so we got changed. Didn't think anybody would be out there. There was a couple cars, but we could see people sitting on the beach. So paddled out, but didn't really know how big it was. So we ran up to the river mouth and just kind of paddled out and tried to jet south to try to break through. And got out there and didn't really realize how big it was.
Really?
And there was a couple of guys sitting up at the creek mouth up there, and we could hear them hooting like a little further out when we were. But we got out through the sets, and I rode 3 waves, I think, and the last wave I got all the way in, I took off on it, and I don't know where I was positioned on the wave, but the stars went away for a minute. Ooh. And that was one of those memories that just kind of burned into my mind.
That's
and like
awesome.
Then the light was coming back over the top of the hills a little bit. So it's one of those little things that kind of just sticks in your brain.
You'll never forget it till you die. So what kind of board were you riding then? What board?
That would have been a rusty 6.2 or 6.4.
Okay.
I got from Central Coast Surfboards, CCS.
Okay.
So that was like...
that was your board at that time?
Yeah. Okay. That was... And I didn't have anyone to tell me like what board to pick. I just kind of went down the rack and went, that one looks cool. Like that's...
It looks cool or did it feel good?
Well, it was a little bit taller than me and the rails felt about right, but I didn't know what I was looking for.
Like what year is
this? So that's 96 or 97.
Okay.
So they were kind of like stretched out. The tails were really narrow. There's continuous rocker and the noses were sharp, like like all the shapers were like complete.
Super and a lot of rocker?
Yeah, crazy rocker through the front.
Okay. But it got you like an epic wave and
they worked.
How'd that board work up in Morro Bay?
Good, because there's enough energy up there.
Oh yeah,
that,
a lot of power.
That you can, and it's kind of a longer board. They didn't need to be thick, but you had enough energy running across the bottom. They worked. I'd actually like to find one of those today and see how it stacks up.
Really?
But
compared to like how the shapes are today?
Yeah.
A little wider,
I wonder
a little thicker?
Yeah, because that was like momentum era when
Yep.
Like Parco and Andy and like those guys were
Ramachado and all those guys.
And they were laying down really big under the lip carbs on those really long but thinned out wafers.
I don't think those boards work compared to how today's boards work, in my opinion.
You're probably right.
But those guys shows how good the surfers they were.
Yeah, that must be what it is. It's the Indian, not the arrow.
Yeah, I don't. Well, who knows? It could be a combo, but totally. I don't think no one's riding boards like that today.
Yeah, so that's why I want to find one. I want to see if they actually don't work and if it was just how good those guys were. But I don't know, like for how long they were. I imagine like if you got them running.
Yeah. Especially like, overhead waves.
What were you riding around
in
that time?
97?
Yeah.
So I was still up there, living in Long Beach, or I don't know when I was just a regular thruster. Probably. So I do have some boards that I have. I had Braden try one of them.
From back then?
From back then, it was Chaz Rickwire.
Yeah.
So Chaz surfboards. Yeah, Charlie Rickwire. Yeah. And one of the boards that had a shape, which I'm kind of bigger now, was like 17 and a half inches. I still have it at home. I do not
ridiculous.
know how I wrote it.
Yeah.
But I remember I had him shape me a board when we went to Hawaii, and he shaped a lot of my boards, and I went going wider, but it felt too plainy. But some of the magic boards, I would say my probably go-to was like 19 inches probably wide.
Okay, so back then that was wide.
I think so, yeah. But it worked better because I was surfing like Surfside, Seal Beach, Huntington, usually like kind of like Oceanside or something.
That might have been the magic board back then, and no one else was getting stuff that way.
I have, and I don't know if it's at my mom and dad's house or I gave it to my wife's mom and dad. The board was like, I don't think it would work for me today, but it was like just stood on it and it just was magic.
Yeah.
And like it was just like my feet were in the right place and it just worked for me.
Nice.
So I don't know. I'm guessing 18 and a half, 19 inches wide.
That's the one you still have?
I have a lot of them. They're stuff like up in the rafters.
I bet Braden would rip it.
So I gave him one of my buddy Richard Payne shaped a board.
Oh yeah.
And
I know Richard Payne.
You know Rich Payne?
Northside guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know Rich good. Like really good.
Ripper.
I interviewed him a couple weeks ago.
Sick. Okay, now I gotta find that one.
Yeah. So Rich, I've known for 25, 30 years, and it was mid time shaping, but Braden wrote it out on Northside, and he was like, "Dude, I was getting pitted. Some guy. It was like all yellow now."
Nice.
and he's like,
Braden
guy,
says yes.
Braden, my son, Braden, and I guess the guy was gonna like take off on him, then realized he could surf on it because he saw the board.
Because it looks like a piece of
crap.
crap.
Because it's super old.
Yeah.
And so I guess they probably don't turn like boards do today, but I think if you're going down the line, it works.
What does this board say? SJ or something on them?
On Richard's
Or is it
boards?
just the paint on them?
I think they said Richard Payne or Payne.
Okay. He's the specialist of the late takeoff north side right, just getting locked in and then just spat out for one big turn into the pilings.
Yeah. So, and there's a picture when I met him. He showed me this picture of him at the wedge in like early '80s.
Really?
Yeah.
Backside.
And I think he was more just like going straight to the bottom. It doesn't show the whole. I'm doing by memory, but I brought it up in the interview. I'm like, didn't you get a picture in the wedge?
Rad.
And he's like, yeah. So Mike Moyer took it, but anyhow. So yeah, I know Rich forever. Okay. So what are you currently riding? Are you all over the
I'm into
board?
weird stuff. I didn't start riding anything different than shortboards until I moved to Southern California,
Okay.
and then realized it went flat down here, so you can't ride that shortboard every day.
Right.
But right now, I mean, this morning I was riding a 7.4 really flat beaky 70s board. It's a single fin, but it's got a swallowtail on it, and the front of it's probably 23 inches wide and 3 inches thick, and then it goes to a really narrow swallowtail, almost dead flat rocker.
Who shaped that?
No idea. It says South Shore on the
So is it an old board? Like
yeah,
it's a
70s
retro board?
It's full 70s.
No one redid. It's not redone.
No, it's
Really?
very correct. It's back here. I'll show you.
Okay, yeah.
but
Trippy. But
it's-
so that's the good thing about this surf shop, huh? This surf shop.
Yeah,
Because you guys are getting.
yeah, that thing, Braden. Check this thing.
Wow.
It's a full-on beak nose.
My buddy had one similar to that. We used to fight for it on the days that it was small. It was a Rocky Sabo. Have you ever
who's
heard of
that?
I don't know. It was just then we'd fight. We'd all bring our shortboards, but we couldn't stand up because it was too small.
Check out the fin, Braden.
Dude, that thing's rad.
It doesn't stay in the same spot. It moves all over. And
Oh, you can't lock it in?
It flexes like crazy. No, that screws as tight as it goes, and it just so every wave is in a different spot. So it's an
Wow.
adventure. But that thing rips. I surfed at Blacks this last week.
Really?
A couple of days. Like it won't duck dive.
How big are blacks?
I surfed it 2 weeks ago out there, and it can't have a leash. The leash thing doesn't work, so you can't
No
put a
leash.
leash on it. So I surfed it a little bigger than I was comfortable with because it can't duck dive the sets on that thing. So I had to like
Wow.
play Frogger and just kind of dodge sets on it. But man, it gets in early and it holds. So I'll ride whatever I can find that's weird.
Okay.
But right now, that's my thing. So
And that keeps you interested in surfing?
yeah, I've been riding that in everything, small stuff, big stuff.
How often are you mixing your boards up?
Uh,
Are you riding that thing like that's your daily board, or are you?
well,
Every day is different.
I work for 9 Plus wetsuits on the side, and 9 Plus has a van. So when I drive the van, I can take every board that I want,
Sweet.
and then I have choices. But lately, I've been driving. A good friend of mine, Jeff Hibbler's mother, donated her old BMW to me,
Okay.
which is rad. I've been commuting in it, but I can only take one board. So I have to take one board, and then it just has to work.
Yeah.
So I don't have a
cool.
choice.
That's awesome. And you drive up here, so where are you surfing at mostly?
Usually Oceanside if I have to work because it's just easy.
Just swing in and out.
Yeah,
Here,
easy
alright.
parking, and for time it's easiest. But
You're not surfing down here at all.
if I had time, I'd go surf trestles. But usually I got to be at the
T
shop.
Street or
I haven't been doing T Street just because it's the new crowd is just too much for me.
really?
We used to live right over here on Palaio,
Okay.
and so 204s was kind of our
Yeah.
our
So I've
go-to
surfed
for a while.
204s.
Yeah, I like that low wave.
It's kind of a weird wave.
It's weird,
It's
but
hard to surf, actually.
It event like when things line up, it can get really good. But on the daily, it's just kind of it's hit or miss.
Yeah. So my buddy lived like right up that whatever street
Uh-huh.
that is, like fourth apartment up.
Nice.
So we'd go there. Actually, when I met my wife. So okay. So then you've surfed all kinds of boards, all different era boards. What was your favorite board?
Today, that South
that
Shore
one?
single fin.
Did you have a magic board like when you're 25 or 20?
Oh man. Every board I get into, I think is my magic board until I find something new. So I've just
Okay.
been kind of moving through. Like I've gotten some really good ones from, like I'm lucky enough to get boards from Russell up in Newport.
Yep.
So JP is the man. He's been hooking me up with boards for a while now. So I love supporting those guys. But Jerry O'Keefe does all the shaping for them. And then JP, Grant Noble, and the boys that are all working at the Brotherhood factory. Dave Naylor and Tanner Barrett.
Okay.
I think are doing all the production there. So I've been riding a lot of the Russell stuff, maybe an insane asymmetrical goofy foot
Really?
that works. It didn't actually work great until I got to go to Bali for my 40th birthday with my wife.
Sick.
My family
That's
and
sweet.
wife got together and sent us there. And I got to use it at racetracks. And that's the best board I think I've ever surfed. Well, it's the only time I've ever surfed there, but that board works insane.
So let's go backwards now. Back in the interview, you were in Bali. So we were talking about Surf Story. How was Bali? So you went to Rincon. You scored, you and your buddy, and
Yep.
it was magical.
So that was
You
nice.
had Bali compared different. I mean, completely
Amazing. Like
different.
that still kind of blows my mind, that whole trip, because it was such a surprise. Like
Okay.
they surprised me with the trip.
Oh.
And at the time I had a blown out knee, and I hadn't been surfing for 2 months before that. So it was my 40th birthday last year in November. So we were camping with friends, and they surprised me with the trip, and they told me we're leaving tomorrow morning
As
and
you're
I-
camping.
as we're camping.
Oh wow.
And I just wanted to hang out with my homies. Like that was
Yeah.
I was having the best time, because everybody I love in one spot, just getting to talk.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, you're going to Bali tomorrow morning. And I was thinking, I got to pack, I got to get boards, and my knee doesn't work. I haven't surfed yet. And I was just getting it was the best / almost worst for a second, because I was getting to go surf my dream wave.
Yeah.
Rory Russell and Jerry Lopez surfing the perfect wave.
Yeah.
And I can't surf. I can't go downstairs.
And you're not confident. So
No, I hadn't been in the water at all. So
I.
I was like, okay, well, we're doing it. If I have to boogie board it, I don't care. We're doing it.
Okay.
So I got to go,
More guts than me, but go ahead.
and I hit up JP from Russell, lent me his Robo knee brace, and we just went for it. And walking in the airport, I was just dying. The knee was not good yet. And we were only there for a week. But during that week, I kind of went easy on it and got a couple sessions, was feeling better.
Okay.
And I think actually walking those stairs up and down to Ulus, rehabbed the knee within that week.
Strengthened it?
Yeah. So within the
Wow.
last 2-3 days, got some of the funnest waves of my life. It wasn't big. It was head high, but just so perfect.
So that
and
was your
rippable.
wave all Uluwatu?
Yeah.
What
There.
about Padang? Is that right next to it?
We surfed Padang, but it was kind of small.
Okay.
But got to paddle out with Mary, my wife, and just beautiful. That was
The water's
Just
all
an-
blue. I've never
such an
been.
amazing trip. It's still kind of I still haven't wrapped my head around that we got to go do that, because it
That's
just kind
rad.
of got sprung on me, and then we were back home within a week.
Yeah, that's cool though. And everything worked out. You didn't have to boogie board it.
Didn't have to boogie board it.
You know what? Sometimes it's meant. And your friends were like, were they worried about you and your knee, or they just
No,
didn't
they
do
were just
shit?
psyched that I was
"Let's
going. Yeah, he'll figure it out.
Okay, there you go.
It was good.
So if you had, and this is kind of a bad question for here because it looks like you have it all wired, but if you could have a magic, a board shaped by somebody, or the board of all time, it could be a shaper that is no longer around with us.
Oh, man.
Or it could be something you see, some of the new shapes coming out from some of the local shapers.
That's
or
such a
even-
hard question.
especially here. This is kind of the
There's so
wrong
many-
question for this shop because you guys have so many different
Well,
boards
if I
from
had
all
to have-
different eras.
I mean, does it have to be alive?
No, it doesn't have to be alive.
Well, obviously, a Tom Blake
Wow.
board
Yeah.
would be amazing, just to feel what those guys were riding, and the feelings they were getting out of those boards.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always go back to this. I got a lot of my surf culture from actually PBS was the public broadcasting
Yep.
channel back in the day, and one year they had a surf weekend where they just played surf culture movies nonstop for the whole weekend, and I just took my VHS tapes and just put them in on extended record,
Okay.
and just recorded everything off of that. And so I end up with all these really cool programs.
How old were you when you did this?
13 or 14.
Okay. So you're stoked
And so I was
on surfing, but
that was my
still
sponge.
skating.
There's no internet then, so
Yep.
it's
Yep.
the only if you get a surfer magazine, you're just seeing ads and stuff.
Yep.
But I never got to see the people talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember what program it was, but they had Johnny Rice, Santa Cruz guy,
Okay.
talking, and he was talking about Dale Velzy coming up and teaching him how to surf. Okay, Velzy would be a guy that,
So Velzy.
yeah, I think he would be one. But Johnny Rice is the guy I went to because I saw him talking about Velzy, teaching him how to shape with draw knives, carving out redwood or balsa,
Okay.
and how to do it start to finish. And he's passed away now. We have one of his V bottoms back here in the shop. But
One of his
yeah,
originals.
and I don't know, like just because I kind of connected with that in there, I always kind of thought it'd be really cool to have a
So
Johnny
you kind
Rice
of
board.
fantasize that.
Yeah, just
lived
'cause
back in the day.
Yeah, I
it was
just
all
kinda-
fresh and new, and like no one was hardly surfing, and on kind of obscured boards, like
Yeah.
the original boards, really.
Yeah, and that's the tie through. I think Velzy taught more people to shape than anybody else. So Velzy was kind of like the Johnny Appleseed. That was
Yeah, there's actually
at
a
least
funny
in hearing.
story.
Oh yeah,
We want to talk about that on the podcast.
why not?
Because I don't know how accurate it is.
That's all right.
Some of the guys talk.
If it's on the internet, it's true, right?
I don't know how it goes exactly, but Harbor Surfboards, had all these orders. And I'm hoping it's Velzy, otherwise I'm totally screwing this up. Let's say a shaper,
Okay.
maybe Velzy. He went for help, and the first couple batches of boards he got from, let's say Velzy, and I'm not sure
Right.
if it's Velzy, were pristine. And Harbor's like, I guess Rich Harbor's like, stoked, rad, dude. Like, let's keep this going. I still have all these orders to fill.
Right.
So then, a month later, a couple weeks later, he starts looking at the boards again. He's like, dude, these aren't the same boards that were shaped like last month. And it was, I guess Velzy maybe opened a surf, like how to shape a surfboard. So he was charging.
So
He was charging
Student
people to come-
boards?
students to come
Yes.
in, charging them to like learn how to shape, and then going and dropping those off at Harbor.
oh, that's fantastic. I hope that's true. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
like
So
dental.
I heard that story. It's super fun. I'll have to do the research to make sure that's accurate.
Or I want to know.
Yeah, and I'll let you know for sure. So
That's a good
anyhow,
story.
Look at that. We're
that
looking
Tommy
at
Carroll?
a video of Tom Carroll riding like some single fin.
That board does not look easy to surf, and he's just shredding.
Yeah. So, do you like that era? Like, what year? That's kind of like early '80s,
You know, I
81, 82.
I scout just anything that looks watertight
Okay.
from any era. I'll try to grab it, and I kind of like getting on the boards that were like the best for that day, because I think most kids and I did the same thing when I was growing up. I'm watching
the top guys.
movies for like some of
Kelly
the Santa
Slater,
Cruz. This was
Ron
kind of when
Solo.
like the Santa Cruz guys
Rat
were
Boy.
really coming up. Yeah, Rat Boy and Flea and Barney and all those guys were kind of like really getting into the air. So I'm watching those, and then when I see 70s stuff, it looks like they're just kind of like
Bogging.
can't surf. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really never wrapped my head around that these guys are actually making do with those boards actually do work really well. Look at
Yeah.
is that Larry? Bertleman? Or
I
is that,
think that's
Buttons?
Buttons. Or not Rabbit. It's we were just talking
It might be Buttons.
Buttons. That's Buttons.
Go and switch stance and turns.
There's
We're
some-
watching videos for those of you out in
Yeah, we were watching
in podcast
videos
land.
on the surf shop. With that being said, anything you want to say about the surf shop? Like,
Oh,
what
yeah,
you
we're-
guys carry? You guys have like rad boards here. Like
We're sitting
really
in
cool boards.
Icons of Surf right now, San Clemente. Shop was started by Ken Mockett back in the day, just to carry stuff that he didn't see getting displayed or made anywhere around here. So it's always been carried the kind of the highest quality craftsman built surfboards. So you got Christensen's, both Eric and Chris. We got Bings, we got Takeyamas, and then we've got everything in between. Try to support the young shapers. We got Grant Noble, we got Ashton Pickle, we got some Von Sols in here. We've got you name it. But try to carry the stuff that's hard to find and support the guys that make stuff here in California or Australia. We've got some dead kooks from Eden Sol. But yeah, it's kind of a shop dedicated to the best stuff that isn't getting showcased.
Yeah. So you're not. I mean, you're not. I don't know what I want to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But you're saying you're not looking for you're not getting thrusters really here. You're getting more.
We'll
like
carry them,
single
but
fins.
we're
Yeah.
looking for stuff that's not mass production stuff. We're looking for stuff
The
that's
hand shaped stuff.
Yeah, we're looking for guys that sometimes we'll try to feature guys that are doing start to finish. We've got some Chris Halls coming in. But yeah, we try to support the guys who really are invested in the surfing as a lifestyle and a culture, and
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's.
try to pay homage to the roots. Try to educate where we can. I'm not claiming I know anything, but
I mean, I think the kids nowadays, like you said, even when I was a kid, you want what like the big guys riding, but I wanted Kern or
Yeah.
Aki's riding, right? But they need to switch it up. I think they have a different perspective on their surfing.
I think there's
to ride different boards.
that's okay now. It wasn't okay for a long
It was
time.
not okay. No, my buddy had short version is early '80s. We're surfing. He paddles out on his dad's old Harbor
Mm-hmm.
surfboard, right? Got booed out of the water like crazy. But 5 or 6 years later, all
Was
of a
that in
sudden,
Seal?
Seal Beach.
Yeah.
And I was good north side too.
Uh huh.
But it was like,
Now
and
it's
it was
all
like 3 or 4
longboards out there.
foot, like super peaky, like good north side. And it literally got booed. I'm like,
Not doing that.
Shane, dude, I'm not with you today,
Yeah, not
bro.
talking to you. Yeah, that's how it was.
It was.
You-
And then like I don't know, 90 or something, all of a sudden these guys that haven't surfed in 20 years decided I'm going to start surfing again. I don't know if they all call each other because it just showed up like overnight.
That's when the fun board came in. The hybrid.
Yeah, like the eggs
Uh-huh.
and all those kind of like, yeah, it did. So
I got to give a shout out to my homie Lars Nessheim, Cayucas Hot Sauce. He's one of the first guys I saw riding weird stuff.
really,
And he's OG, grew up right at Old Creek in Cayucas. His folks are still in the same house. So like right across the street. And I didn't really connect with him as a friend until like we actually met each other in Huntington again. We lived together as roommates for a long time.
Okay.
But I used to see him riding stuff that like all the kids were riding just performance shortboards,
Okay.
thin, narrow stuff. But he was riding weird stuff, and they were usually pretty beat up. And I didn't really recognize till later he got hooked up with John Wegner, and he was riding some fishes and eggs and weird stuff and kind of ripping on it, but I didn't know what I was looking at. So I got to give him credit for being kind of in that
like
odd zone.
open-minded,
Yeah, he was.
where no one else was.
Yeah, and I
That's
just
cool.
looked at him going, well, he must not be able to afford a
Yeah.
new
Like,
spider or a
someone's
new
dropping
coal or
him off,
something.
He's finding him on the side of the road.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's
That's
not
kind of
the
how it looked,
case.
but I didn't really until later I realized like he's way more advanced than.
And does he still surf?
Oh, he rips.
Oh, cool.
Log Rap just dropped a little clip of him doing a sick like fin release drift on a
Really?
little left
And he
hander.
lives up there now, down here?
Lives up there, runs
Okay.
Cayucas Hot Sauce.
So who were the hot guys up in Morro Bay at the time?
Oh man, I wasn't. It's harder. It was harder then because you didn't really get like social media. Now you can kind of
Right.
research stuff without
Okay.
really having to be in the zone. Up there, it's just like the guys you'd see surfing, and most of them I didn't know their names. Like even now, I've been
Hard charges, though, 'cause there's a lot of...
Yeah, there's some
always
heavy
waves
dudes.
there.
There's one of a older friend of mine named Solomon Antonell. He used to come pick us up at lunch breaks and take us to surf because he was a couple years older. But he was a good surfer. His friend Greg Pabst. A lot of the guys I don't even know their names. I mean, I wasn't really friends with him, but
Well, you said Nate Tyler?
yeah, Nate was like he was a grade or two below me.
Okay.
And he was coming up like they were doing like the Goldfish Volcom
Yeah.
contest series around that time, and he was kind of like getting a little bit of love from Volcom.
And it was Carl?
And then Carl's he was always a good surfer.
What's Carl's last name?
Holm, Holm.
Okay.
And Dustin from Lost,
Okay.
Dustin Ray,
Okay.
who's passed away. He was kind of like one of the guys that got some spotlight on him because he got connected up with Mayhem, and so he's in a lot of the Lost videos from back then. And
Cool.
Ripper, I wasn't tight with those guys. They were like kind of mean to us.
So how often do you go back up there to surf?
Normally, I usually go up a couple times a year. My folks are up in Los Osos still,
Okay.
but this year kind of being a weird year.
COVID.
We've only been up there once.
All righty. Well, I really appreciate the interview.
Yeah, Mike.
And I really like you. Yeah, you did a great job, and I appreciate it. Thank you for being keeping us here like it's home.
Nice.
We'll just hang out at the shop and
Am I allowed to give a shout out?
just give any last words from Ben.
All right, so I just got to give a big thanks to. Can it be like a 2-minute shout out?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think when I first moved to Southern California, I worked at HSS, and I got taken under the wing of George Lambert,
Okay.
mayor of Main Street. He worked for Robert August Surfboards, got me in really good. He took me to mainland Mexico for my first time, introduced me to everybody that I still know now in the industry,
Okay.
and just kind of taught me the way to treat customers, regardless of who they are, what their level was. So like as far as being a retail person, and just in surfing industry, he was just a really good example of like how to just treat everybody like, even if they're a Barney, like you treat them good until they act like a Barney, then you can call them out on it.
Okay. Fair enough.
And Mark Kassoff for introducing me to George Lambert. Thank you. And then my younger sister Corey, who rips, she's an Aruka ambassador. She connected me to Richard Balding, who runs 9+ Wetsuits. And Richard kind of took me under wing and kind of got me on their program for a while. And I bugged him long enough and volunteered for him long enough that he finally gave me a position
Sweet.
working for 9+. So that's what I've been doing for the last few years. Surf Ride, work with Brado for the last almost 5 years. And then here at Icons of Surf, So thanks to Ken Mockett and thanks to Richard Balding for taking good care of me, and thanks to Russell Surfboards for keeping me on the best boards. Couldn't do it without you guys. And Cayucas hot sauce for the homie Lars. If you haven't tried it, try it.
And where do you pick the hot sauce up at? You got
Vaughn's and Pavilions down here, I think, has them.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
We had some here, but we sold it out. Lars, we need some more.
Nice.
Thalia Street sometimes stocks it. But yeah, you got to try it.
Perfect. Anything else?
I think that's it. I could talk forever, but I don't.
No, maybe we'll come back and do a part 2 later on.
Nice.
I just feel like there's more to talk
All right, you can call me out on all my lies at that point.
I appreciate it. This is Mike at Quivercast here at Icons of Surf in Sacramento with Ben, and everyone have a good evening. Thanks. Woo! Thanks again for listening. If you like this episode, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And don't forget to visit quiverbuilder.com where you'll find your next magic board. I'll see you in the lineup. Hey, you guys. Endless Summer box set. This thing is legit. It's authentic. Numbered certificate in it. It has a 5-frame film strip. From the original print, you will literally own a piece of history. It has a specially minted bronze medallion. Dude, that thing's sick. Okay, there's so much more here. Go to the show notes. There's a link on there. Go check this piece of history out. This thing's rad. Seriously. Smithsonian American History Museum has it. It took 4 years of research with 3.5 in production. All hand assembled. This thing's rad. So much to this awesome box set. Remastered DVD, sharper images than the original film, but dude, this thing's so sick. Link in the show notes.